to the Asian American News Network's exclusive interview with our Lieutenant Governor, Dan Forest. My name is John. I'm a rising junior at UNC, and I'll send it off to Chloe to get things started.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chloe Chan, and I am a member of the International Leadership Foundation Teen Council. And on behalf of our team, I would just like to thank everyone who is here today in the audience for their dedication to representing the Asian American community. Today, we have the honor to have the Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina with us. Thank you so much, Dan, for your time and your commitment to hearing the voice of our community. I can tell you this means a lot to us, especially since you reflect many of our values such as education, economic growth, family, and public safety for future generations. Additionally, we would like to thank our sponsors, the International Leadership Foundation, the NC Asian American Coalition, the NAC News Channel, and if anyone in the audience has questions for Dan, please send them in a private chat to either Sarah Wang, Anthony Chen, or Michelle Liu. Next, we will have Adrian Tong to give a quick introduction about our Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, Chloe. Our Lieutenant Governor, Dan, grew up in Charlotte and graduated from UNC Charlotte. In 2012, he felt a call to serve the people of North Carolina. That November, Dan was elected Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, becoming only the second Republican elected to the office since 1897. In 2016, he became the first to ever be re-elected. While in office, Dan has continually advocated for policies that drive economic growth. He has also become a leader in the school choice movement, helping children succeed regardless of their zip code. Dan spearheaded an initiative to connect every classroom in North Carolina with high-speed internet and championed a bill to preserve free speech rights on public college campuses, the first bill of its kind in the United States. Currently, Mr. Forest is running for governor of North Carolina in the 2020 election, and he is a longtime friend and supporter of the Asian American community. For those that are joining us today, please welcome Mr. Forest as we move on to our interview session.
Thank you, Adrian. Dan has definitely made a remarkable change for the better in our great state of North Carolina. And now we would like to introduce our AANN reporters, John, Harrison, and Ray.
So we're going to start off with the question today. Mr. Forrest, during your tenure as Lieutenant Governor, what valuable lessons have you learned serving North Carolina?
There's new valuable lessons every day, certainly in the midst of a pandemic and things being shut down. You realize, I think one of the things you realize really quickly is how important strong, transparent leadership is for the people of our country, or any country for that matter. When you have leadership that is not willing to tell you the whole truth, or not willing to be transparent with data and facts, and doesn't stand before the people and answer really tough questions, it's hard for the people of any country or state or city to trust fully their leadership. You have to kind of ask what motives are keeping people from sharing full information. So right now, right where we stand today in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, those are a lot of questions you have to ask right here in North Carolina. So, that's a valuable lesson, that human nature tries to defend itself and tries to protect itself. And everybody generally has an agenda and people have motives. But when you're in the position of leadership, you have to put a lot of those things aside and say, what is best for all of the people of your country, state, or city? And, try to work to build trust with the people by being transparent with them. That's one lesson that's going on right now. I think, the other lesson would be that government generally doesn't run like a business. And a lot of people will say, well, how come government isn't more like a business? How come they're not focused on efficiencies and trying to do things, trying to improve things all the time? Well, government really is about bureaucracy, and a lot of government is about job security and protecting people's positions and those kinds of things. And I think what you need is business people to step into the roles in government, people that understand business, people that have run a business, people that understand the levers of the economy and what ultimately works best for the people, not for the power of the politicians. So those are just two, but we could probably go on all day, Ray, and talk about all the lessons learned. I learn new ones every day.
Thank you. So what has inspired you to make a run for the North Carolina governorship?
Well, I've served as lieutenant governor for 2 terms now. I'm almost on 8 years as lieutenant governor. I am term limited there. I've enjoyed the process of serving as lieutenant governor over the last 8 years. We've gotten a lot of great things done. We've pushed a lot of really solid policy through the General Assembly, both the House and the Senate. I've got a lot of friends in the House and Senate. And I think, you know, we have a choice to make in America. I think we are seeing especially with young people in America, a slippery slope towards socialism and even communism in our country. We have a choice to make that either our brightest days are yet ahead or our darkest days as a country are yet ahead. A lot of that's going to depend on your generation and how your generation steps up and fills in the gap and says, no, we want freedom. We want liberty for everybody. We know that freedom and capitalism and moral capitalism is the best system for the world, for people all over the world. Capitalism has brought more people out of abject poverty and poverty in general than any other economic system in the world. It's got its flaws for sure, but it has improved life for many people. And it certainly made the United States a great country because of the freedom that it allows. So when we see that slippery slope, we need leaders to step in and fill the gap and protect the things that our founders or our framers said was unique about our country. One of those things is that all men are created equal as a creator with certain rights. That's a statement that was never made, has never been made anywhere else in the history of the world. And even with the flaws and you know, issues with America that we've had through the years, it's still held true that this idea of America, that people can come from anywhere in the world and they can show up in America with hope in their heart and no money in their pocket, and they can still achieve an American dream. They're not pushed aside by class or race or anything else, that they can achieve if they work hard and set their minds to it and have that right heart for hope. So those are the things you want to protect. And I think North Carolina is the greatest state in the country. I love North Carolina. It's my home, and I want to make sure that it's strong and vibrant for my kids and grandkids.
So you've been heavily involved with education during your tenure as lieutenant governor, and education is obviously an important issue to many Asian Americans. Why do you think school choice is so important in North Carolina, parents and students?
I think it's absolutely critical to improve the quality of education. I believe that competition breeds better quality. If you have no competition, you have a one-size-fits-all government school, then and that's your only choice, then you're always going to perform to the least common denominator. That's just human nature. It's the way it works. But school choice allows excellence to pop up in different ways. It allows you and your parents to be able to make choices for the future of your education that best fit you. There is no one-size-fits-all way to educate kids. Some forms of education fit better than others. For some people, it's a charter public school. For some, it's traditional public school. Sometimes it's homeschool. Sometimes it's private school. But regardless, all of you and all of your parents and really parents all across the state want what's best for their kids. And they want an education system that's going to perform for them and give them great opportunity. It's no mystery. It's just factual truth that the Asian community outperforms other communities by a large margin in our state and around the country. And so, you know, you're talking about with the Asian community, finding the highest bar that you can possibly have for students to be able to step in school and have very high expectations for their education and very high performance levels as well. On the flip side of that, just one other thing about school choice is that there are students all across our state and around America that are growing up in communities where schools are failing their kids. They've been failing schools for decade after decade. And without school choice, for a lot of these communities, there is no hope for those parents. Most of your parents are probably fairly well engaged in your education. There are a lot of parents who want to be engaged, but they don't have an option for their kids. So school choice and opportunity scholarships and those kind of things afford those parents a similar opportunity to what many of your parents can afford as well.
I'm Harrison. I'll be asking you a few more questions. So the Restore Campus Free Speech Act was the first bill of its kind in the United States, and you sponsored it. For all current and future college students, what's the importance of this monumental bill?
Wow, you know, we worked for years on that bill. We worked with some national folks, Stanley Kurtz and others, to make sure we could push this bill through. I'll tell you, the importance was right off the bat, before the bill even passed, the fact that we were talking about it and we were calling out our universities across the state to say, hey, free speech is more important now than ever. We need to make sure that regardless of what somebody's ideology is or what their background or perspective is, that they have the right to speak freely on campus. And somebody coming in and shouting them down in a auditorium where people want to hear that speaker, that's not free speech. Shutting down somebody's free speech is not free speech. College professors shutting students down because they have a different opinion, shaming them in a classroom, making them feel stupid in front of their peers, that's not free speech. Students should have the right to speak their mind freely without it impacting their grades. Students and faculty and the general public should have the right to go to a college campus and freely hear speakers speak without the woke mob yelling them down and shouting them down for whatever their agenda is. And so this was really important. And I'll just give you a quick analogy. We had at the time, there's this rating system by this group called FIRE, and they rate college campuses based on free speech. And it's a green light, yellow light, red light rating system. We had one green light university out of our 17 campuses in North Carolina at the time that that was passed. And before the bill even passed, we had 8 green light universities. So just the fact that we were talking about the importance of it made the universities pay attention. Are we done? Have we achieved the goals yet? No, not necessarily. There's a long way to go, and it's a battle we'll keep fighting. When you think that 98, 99% of all college professors are liberal, they don't have conservative viewpoints, they're one-sided. So that means the campuses are one-sided. That means the viewpoint of all the professors and many of the students who fear for having a different thought is going to be shouted down in some way or dismissed in some way, and that's not right. So we have to continue to protect that for everybody, you know, and make sure that when we talk about diversity, the diversity of opinion is every bit as much as important as diversity of race or gender or anything else.
And that's great that you guys have made so much progress on that. So I want to transition to your campaign. Obviously, campaigning is a very stressful process. So how has your family supported you during your campaign?
You know, Harrison, that's a great question. I think that in the middle of a campaign, especially when you're a conservative Republican and the media is all liberal and your opponent has millions and millions of dollars to spend against you, I mean, what you will see if you watch TV is you're going to see probably about $30 million spent against me to try to trash my name, to try to make me look scary and all those kind of things that happen in politics. And I brush it off. I don't really worry about it. I know who I am, and it just honestly, it always bothers everybody, but it doesn't really bother you too much. You just kind of dismiss it. But for your family, it's a lot harder. And the thing that a lot of people don't understand with families in politics is they carry the weight of it too, because their friends say things that are very insensitive. Their friends will watch commercials and media. They believe what they hear, and they go and say something to my kids or my wife. And, you know, the line is within our family, my wife and my kids both, my wife will say, hey, you know, I just got to remind you, that's my husband. Or my kids will say, I just gotta remind you, that's my dad you're talking about. And so I have an awesome family. They're very engaged. I'd say 2 of them, my daughter works for me, so she's my scheduler. So I get to see her every day. My son is very involved in communication and Twitter and things like that with me. But my other 2 kids, they're kind of on the sideline a little bit. I have a 15-year-old daughter. She's not real interested at 15. And then my wife is right there by my side. And I honestly, Harrison, I wouldn't do it without them supporting me. If I didn't have strong family support, I'd go back to architecture and do that again, because this is not worth the pain and the struggle to have to go it alone without your family.
All right, thank you. I'm going to give this over to John.
It's sort of amazing to be able to have like the whole support of everyone close to you. So segueing from like smaller scale family to larger scale, I guess, what do you believe is the biggest challenge that our state faces today? And what would you do as governor to address that challenge?
Yeah, thanks, John. You know, it's different now than it was 4 months ago. That's for sure. I mean, we had a very different plan and strategy going into the election, even before the coronavirus hit. And I would say that now the number one issue is going to be rebuilding the economy. I think that's paired with law and order. I think law and order is very important to people. I think that what we've seen is people destroying our cities and smashing windows and burning things, people standing in the middle of interstates, shutting down interstates for no purpose whatsoever. just the looting and violence and rioting is just not America. It's a small segment of agitators who want to stir things up, who really are in favor of a Marxist revolution in our country. And we're just not going to allow that to happen. I mean, I think law and order is going to be at the top, but building the economy, when in North Carolina alone, we have probably about 1.5 million people unemployed right now. We have basically had zero going into this 4 months ago, and now we have 1.5 million. The question will be in this election for people is who is better suited to rebuild the economy. Somebody with a business background that has done it for decades, who has brought business to our state in the way that you have to go out and compete for it and win it, or somebody that's been in politics for their whole life and has never really run a business, hired people, written a paycheck, those kind of things. So I think that you know, just that alone is going to stand out to people if we have the ability to share the message.
So, like, more specifically, would you have any plans that you would like to implement in order to help the economy rebound, as you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, we'll release a jobs plan pretty soon here. You know, it includes things like starting with the basics in government. I think one of the things we'll have to do is tighten our belt as a government. We're going to have to make sure that we do things like fix the DOT. I mean, we have a broken Department of Transportation that's very in the weeds, but the state auditor came out a couple of weeks ago with a report talking about the mismanagement of the DOT. That's an agency that is run by the governor. And you're talking about billions of dollars out the door. If you don't have good roads and strong infrastructure for your state, then it's going to be really hard to grow the economy and get it back on track. Same thing with high-speed broadband and connecting the last mile. You know, I was actually the leader of the effort to get high-speed broadband in all of our classrooms in schools. So every classroom in North Carolina is connected to high-speed broadband. First state in the nation to do that. I believe we'll be the first state in the nation to have high-speed broadband, the last mile, whether that's the urban last mile or the rural last mile. That opens up channels for business for people that haven't had those opportunities before. The other piece would be just general connectivity from our cities to our small towns. Where are the rural towns that we need to focus on job retraining, apprenticeships, those kinds of things to get people back on their feet. But I think, you know, when it comes down to how you recruit and how you go after businesses, how you want to grow small businesses, you have to continue to consider the tax foundation of our state. We have a very strong tax foundation now. We can continue to lower personal and corporate income tax in our state and allow businesses to thrive, whether those are small businesses here in our state or whether those are people that want to come here. So if you want to attract corporations to your state, it's actually not the corporate income tax that you work on, it's the personal income tax. Because if you want to attract the headquarters, then you're talking about attracting the C-suite, the CEO, the COO, the CFO, folks like that. And they're really thinking about their own personal wealth that's being hit when they move to a state like North Carolina. You know, what's the difference between California and North Carolina? Millions of dollars to CEOs that want to bring their business here. So I think we have a very attractive state already. I think we can continue to make it more attractive. I think we can market it better. I think we can grow our top industries like agriculture is our #1 industry. We can continue to grow agriculture. We can make it a $100 billion industry in North Carolina. We can continue to grow the tech and biotech sectors in North Carolina. We can continue to grow the financial market in North Carolina. We have great opportunity. Like I said, it's either our brightest days or our darkest days that are ahead of us. And I think this election is going to determine which one of those is going to be.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I think that North Carolina, especially like RTP, already has like a very solid foundation to build upon. And
yeah, it really does. And you know, I actually appreciate you asking for specifics, because we could go on and I could learn from you guys as well. I mean, if we had time, we could sit here and I'm sure you all have great ideas as to things that we could do, you know, to improve the economy, places that we're missing, things that we're just not thinking about. And as a leader, surrounding yourself with strong business folks that are bright entrepreneurs that know how to start their own business and get their, you know, they know what the roadblocks are. They know where the holes are, they know where opportunities lie, because that's what they're looking for all the time. What we do is we look to politicians to solve these problems, and it's really not the politicians that do it. It's the politicians that surround themselves with really strong business minds and people that you know, think in a different way that give you a competitive advantage as a state.
Thank you for that. So we've opened up the floor to the public and received a couple questions. We're going to have the ILF Teen Council ask those. If you could keep it brief, that would be fantastic. So starting off with Sarah.
Hi, Mr. Forrest. I'm Sarah. I'm a senior at Enloe High School. So one of the questions that we got was, how do you plan to improve public safety within our state?
Oh, that is a great question, Sarah. I mean, public safety now, I just kind of throw it in the law and order bucket. And I believe rather, not think, I know it's true, that the vast majority of people in America want their streets to be safe. They want to know when they go home at night that their homes are going to be protected. They don't want even the thought of rioters and looters walking into their neighborhood and destroying their neighborhood in some way. So, what we've seen during the last few months is these rogue woke mobs going into liberal cities with liberal Democrat mayors and states with liberal Democrat governors who are going to let them get away with it. They tell the police to stand down and not do their job. When I'm governor, I will make sure that the police do their job. I will make sure that the National Guard is there to back them up. I will make sure that the United States military is there if they had to be. I mean, the president's offered those options. Whatever it takes to protect your cities from being destroyed or even taken over, like Seattle, with the little free independent zone they created out there in Seattle, is not free and independent, and certainly not very safe for people out there. So, that is a basic of what government is supposed to do. Government is supposed to protect us. It's not supposed to run our lives, by the way. We shouldn't look to the government to run our lives, to tell us how to make every decision. And we see a very fine line going on there right now. You have, governors and mayors and people telling citizens what to do every single day and how to do it. That's not what government's meant to be. America, especially, land of the free, home of the brave, freedom is extremely important to us. We should be able to make our own decisions. Our leaders should trust the people until they don't have a reason to trust them anymore. And what we've seen is the opposite, is shutting everything down, telling people they can't make a living, and forcing, in a very subjective matter, some businesses to close rather than giving them the opportunity to put food on their table for their kids. And I think that's a pretty immoral stance. So between that immorality and the lawlessness immorality, I think those are two things that have to be fixed, Sarah.
Thank you.
So one question we got was, how do you organize, plan, and prioritize your work? Because obviously you're a very busy man. You have a lot of things to do and cover. So could you tell us more about that?
Well, I have a full-time scheduler. As I said, my daughter's my scheduler, and that's a full-time job. So organizing and prioritizing, and at the same time leaving some room for some little bit of life here and there and balance is really important. I am the worst, most guilty culprit of wanting to fill up my calendar. And when somebody says something, I want to do everything. I never want to tell anybody no. Everything's good, let's go do that thing. And the reality is, if I get too busy and I work for too many days straight without any kind of break at all, then I get a little grumpy. My wife will tell me I'm grumpy and tells me I have to slow down. But my daughter is a great scheduler because she's my family. She cares about me in a different way than other people do. And so she'll actually hold time aside even when I don't really agree with it. And in the end, it has turned out to be really good. So it's difficult. Everything's a priority. Everybody wants some of your time. Sometimes you have to have your staff meet with people, even though you really want to. And then especially during a campaign, you're trying to do two jobs. You're doing a lieutenant governor job and you're trying to run for governor at the same time. And so that adds another level of complexity to it to try to find balance there. But I enjoy being on the road. And I think it was Tiffany. Was it Tiffany that asked this question? I enjoy being on the road, Tiffany, and I enjoy meeting people. It's the best part of the job. I enjoy seeing kind of just the diversity of the state and all the great things going on out there. So, I like what I do. I enjoy my job, but it holds true for all of us, everybody on this phone. I don't know if there's such a thing as balance in life, but my wife and I, we call it stealing time. So every once in a while we steal a little bit of time together, and that really does make a big difference.
What advice do you have for someone considering a career in politics and government?
Well, I mean, the first bit of advice is spend your time doing a lot of reading. Understand, especially here in America, what makes us unique. And when we talk about American exceptionalism, there's a lot of people that think about a lot of different things there. Some people talk about the American dream, or some people talk about, your wealth or your power, prosperity, whatever it is. I always go back to the Declaration of Independence. I think it's a very unique document in the history of the world. where our framers of the Constitution and the Declaration, they understood very well all the forms of government around the world. They understood very well the history of those governments, both good and bad, the things that worked and the things that didn't work. And they did their best to build a country that was unique. And when they wrote those words that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator, that was, man, that just turned the world upside down. Nobody has ever said that before. Prior to that, it was leaders and kings and dictators around the world who it was their way or the highway. There was no such thing as rule of law. There was no, which just means everybody has to play by the same rules and abide by the same laws. That's very unique. So anyway, my point being is learn as much as you can. Study as much as you can, not just about America and the founders, but about Western civilization, going back to, Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, going back to, kind of the beginning of thought of Western civilization, what made that important. And the reason that's important is because you need to really be able to defend what does truly make America great. And not that, country doesn't have flaws. That's the whole point. The idea of America is that it could continue to get better over time and could continue to improve. The more you know, the better you can defend, and the better you can put together policies and ideas that best represent what's good, not just for the people of your state or country, but what I believe is good for the world as well. So know your stuff. I mean, spend time. Don't get engaged too early. There's lots of ways to get engaged in politics, but at least know what you're doing. I don't think there's an age, by the way. I mean, I think minimum age to run for office, perfectly fine. We have a young man out in Western North Carolina right now named Madison Cawthorn. He's a good friend. He actually worked on my campaigns for several years. He's running for Congress now, and he is 24. He turns 25 in August, so he'll be at the minimum age in August prior to running. And he is sharp. He's strong. He's a bold leader. So I don't think the age really matters, Anthony. A lot of people say, well, you need to get some, time under your belt. No, I think it just depends on what kind of leader you are and how you want to serve the people.
Thank you for that, Dan. And thank you to our ILF Teen Council for bringing those questions. It's a bit past 9:30, so we want to be respectful of your time. We know you're very busy. So to wrap things off, as like a very open question, do you have anything else to say to the Asian American community watching in today?
Well, I want to say thank you for being engaged. Well, I tell you what, it is such a blessing to me to look at young people like you, to bright minds that are eager and passionate and want to make a difference and want to do good in their communities. And you guys are some of the brightest minds in our country sitting right here on this call today, and there's such great opportunity for you in this country. So the thing I say is, don't be like the rest of the world. Don't be like a lot of folks, young people in this country right now that don't understand the things about this country that made it what it is, and fall into the patterns of liberal professors and liberal teachers who want you to think a certain way. Have your own mind, be able to think for yourself, be able to challenge the most difficult things that are going on in our country, be able to develop solutions for them, and speak up and speak your mind and stand bold. I mean, there are very few bold and courageous leaders out there. Most of them just fall in line and, don't want to take shots. And, for me, I put it all on the line. I get criticized every day. You're going to see, like I said, $30 million of media out there running against me in one state just to destroy my name. Not a lot of people are willing to do that. And I'm willing to do it because I love this state, because I care about you, because I care about your future, and because I know that you guys are going to make this place better for us in the years to come if we do it the right way. So thanks for the time. Thanks for everything you guys are doing, and just spread the word and let people know what's at stake.
I hand it off to Chloe to finish things off.
So much, Mr. Forrest, again for your time. And on behalf of the Asian community, I would like to thank you so much for your contributions to our great state of North Carolina. Thank you so much for keeping the American dream alive and representing our families and what our families initially came to America for. So we'd also like to thank our sponsors, the International Leadership Foundation, the North Carolina Asian American Coalition, NAC News Channel, and Asian American News Network. You can find more information about Dan Forrest on his Facebook page, on his website, and also on Instagram. So please do follow him on social media. Thank you so much again, and run, Forrest, run.
Thank you, Chloe. Take care, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.